So karibu sana, Mr. President, as you take us through the status of the built environment in 2025.
Thank you, Michelle. And as she just said that the reflections that you all had are quite telling in what the report is about, really. There is no secret. In fact, you have the report here. So what I'm going to present here is mostly not necessarily my own focus, but what the team, the research and advocacy team has been working on and think we need to highlight. Also, just to thank the CADA for making this possible. And in the room, you are in good hands with the entire leadership of AAK. We also feel like that we are in good hands with your support on this one. We've been doing this for a while now, since 2017. In fact, previously we used to do it twice every year. Then we realized that getting data in Kenya is difficult. It doesn't mean it's not there. It is there. But mining data in Kenya is like tapping water from a rock. You need some divine intervention at some point. So we started doing it every year, just looking at the trends and the challenges and the opportunities that are there in the built environment. In fact, the summary is that this environment of ours is very lucrative. And what Keda was presenting here, that on one side someone is saying we have no capacity, and the other side they are busy scaling up and they are pushing demand. So it's quite a complicated, as someone has said, the relationship we have. It's even more complicated when we talk about the sector and the main players who are the built environment professionals, represented here by the 8 chapters of AAK. Next slide. So generally, when we are looking at the built environment, the urban centers become the focus, because this is where the majority building is. That's just a spike map of showing of the main urban areas in Kenya. Of course, the big spikes you'll see there right in the middle, that's Nairobi, and down there it's Mombasa, and you can tell where the main urban centers are concentrated in Kenya, mostly in Western Kenya, in the central and in the coastal strip. We only have about 19 counties that are now complying with this requirement that we have plans. All right, so we are not doing so well. We are rapidly urbanizing, and it shows by the way in which we talk about the municipalities. Right now we are at 117 municipalities. We just had 7 new ones. These are just status below cities or urban areas. I mean, areas which has got quite a number of population and are growing very fast. And it's important to note that we have about 2,636 urban centers, and only less than a tenth of them are adequately planned. So you can see the problem right there. When someone says there's a problem, it means that the rate at which we are complicating our lives is tenfold. Next slide, please. So in terms of urbanization, of course, we are growing fast at 4.4%. This is normal, typical for Africa and a lot of developing countries. Urbanization is core because urban areas are considered as the place where you go and get opportunities, and the issues of what we'd call growth and transformation happens in urban areas. So a lot of movement, especially rural urban migration, but also population growth in these areas. Right now we are talking about a third of Kenya is in urban areas, but this is going to increase at the rate at which it's growing. We expect this figure to be about 50% maybe in the next 10 years or so. I've just mentioned about the 7 municipalities that have just been upgraded. And that table there just shows some of the figures in terms of the centers and the issues about plans and outdated plans, or even just plans which are available and are not being used appropriately. There's a lot of challenge when it comes to who's actually doing these plans. You know, when the planner from KEDA was talking about, was it the planner from KEDA saying that they're dealing with a lot of random people coming there without specs, without advice from the planner. This is something actually happening at urban planning level, all the way down to individual developers. That people think that avoiding designers, planners, architects, engineers is actually saving money. And it starts even with the authorities, who, if you ask right now, what is the reason why they don't have plans, they will say they don't have money. And they're probably waiting for the Japanese, the Chinese, the Americans, the French to come and give them money to plan their cities. That is the kind of situation we are in right now. Next slide. When we come to development control, the main challenges of development control is the inefficiencies and the permitting system, which is largely unrealized to the extent that 39 counties are still doing things manually, and the others which are gone digital are not efficient, so they are as good as manual. And we sampled 4 counties because that's the data we could get. Like I said, it's difficult for this data to come out because a lot of government officials seems to take data as their personal property, and they don't want to share it, despite the fact that there is the provision to access to information. In Machakos, we've seen an increase in the number of reported development applications, almost 5 times since the last year. And the problems which are cutting across, you will see in all counties, not just for literally everywhere, is the issues of facilitation, in quotes, the unofficial facilitation, which I will speak to not in a good way. In Kiambu, on the other hand, it takes up to 9 weeks to get approval. This doesn't matter whether the building project is a low-risk project like a single residential bungalow or it's a complex project. But here is the catch. If you are able to do unofficial facilitation, you can take as little as 2 weeks. Okay? You can take even a year or more, of course, if you don't know who to talk to. But most important to note about Kiambu is that they have reverted back to a manual system, and they're one of the first adopters of the digital system. And the reason they gave was various reasons, including that the system was hacked and someone was giving out approvals. And one of the things we've always asked them is that if Safaricom has never shut down M-Pesa, despite the fact that we know they're being hacked and all that, why would you shut down a development control permit because it's been hacked? A lot of our members are just most of the complaints we get at the association, at the secretariat, is that they are being pushed to facilitate someone so that they can get these things moving, or there's basically no response from once they submit. In Kisumu, the number of developments are not nearly there. We're talking about just 300, which might not be reflective of the actual situation on the ground. So there's a chance that a lot of people are not actually submitting, because the chance that you will not get approval in good time is very high. But that said, there was a slight increase from last year. And in Nairobi, which has the biggest chunk of the data we collected, more than 60% of the development is happening in Nairobi. But unfortunately, the value has significantly dropped by a third. This could also be due to the challenges we are having. I think even as we speak, we are dealing with a situation of a downtime in the system. And we think these systems are down in an artificial way. Sounds weird, sounds like a paradox saying artificial intelligence is artificial. But we think that someone is intentionally switching off the system to frustrate developers and frustrate consultants to facilitate the fast tracking of the same. There's a steady decline in Nairobi. Actually, 2023, 2025, there's a steady decline in terms of the revenue collected by the county. Let me also note that it's almost important, it's almost like the most important thing for the counties right now is to collect revenue. They have a mandate which is for oversight and being able to control development. But the most that they're doing right now is collecting revenue. Next slide, please. So, overall, the performances in the counties is quite fractured, in progress, and there's a lot of regression. Let me note that AAK is one which actually started a digital platform 10 years ago in Nairobi here, with support of an IFC. And that was transformational in terms of going e-permitting. And a lot of countries, including Rwanda, came and benchmarked in Kenya. Today, as we speak, I think Rwanda is ranked 3rd in the world, or in Africa, is it, in terms of e-permitting. And the ease of doing business, they are ranked up there. In Kenya, land conveyancing and development control is the least index in the ease of doing business. So generally, we are that perfect storm as built environment professionals, pushing this wheel of economic growth with a lot of inertia and friction. So, next slide, please. Still on development control, of course, there is the other aspect of building safety and compliance, where we have NCA, the National Construction Authority, and the National Building Inspectorate. And there's a lot of movement, especially on NCA, which has been registering quite a number of projects, because remember, they are registering the building works when they start. And there's an increase of about 14%. On the other hand, the National Building Inspectorate is not doing so well. There's a massive drop in the number of buildings that have inspected. We're talking about, I think, 90% plus, from 20,000 buildings last year to less than 500 this year. So we believe this could be maybe lack of capacity or lack of facilitation, because inspecting buildings is quite tedious. But it's very necessary, because construction issues of safety are tied to issues of monitoring and follow through. And an average building takes months to put up. So you cannot say that you have approval, now you can go and do whatever you want. You need follow-ups. That's where you need consultants to come in and follow through. That's where you need the county officials, because planning is a devolved function, to follow through and make sure that the right construction is done, even if it's the approval is. So just right there to point out, 87% of the audited buildings, 87% drop in the audited buildings. And of course, the other statistics there you can see are the number of rejections. I think up to over 1,000 projects were rejected. But remember, the point at which they're being rejected at NCA, most of them are supposedly approved by the county. Maybe they didn't have prerequisite consultants on board during the construction process phase. But about 4,600, over 4,600 projects were approved by NCA. And we also unfortunately saw 6 buildings collapse this year. And 2 of them were demolished on purpose because they were unsafe. Next slide. AAK is championing, and has been championing for a while, a unified digital platform, which we've been calling One Stop in various platforms. But the idea here is that in a world which is digital, in a world where In fact, we are globally known for, financial digitization. We are very savvy. The built environment is still plagued by a lot of manual systems that cannot help the complexity of a construction project. So our vision is that we need a single submission and payment to streamline the process. And we have presidents, never mind we are the one who, sort of help them set up like Rwanda. But we have been advocating for this for a while now. Unfortunately, our goal of achieving minimum human interaction in this process has not yielded much fruit. And we intend to continue with the same, because we think that is the way to sort this. That's one major way to sort out this problem of development control challenges. Next slide, please. When it comes to affordable housing program, we are currently looking at a couple of things. We are still collecting data about affordable housing. We have asked our members engaged in affordable housing to give us data on their experiences. They are trickling in. But the data we have right now is about 1,630 units have been completed up to as of October this year. There are currently just over 300 projects ongoing, including the various units. So there's the general affordable housing projects units. We have some institutional staff houses. We have student housing, and also some other privately led projects that have been VAT exempt, totaling to about 214,000 units currently on sites. Next slide. The construction finance. Of course, we looked at some of the mainly used components. So we have cement there, steel, and the cost of fuel. And as you can see, between 2021 and now, the price of cement, for example, has almost doubled from 550 5 years ago to 850 now. The price of steel per kilogram has gone up by 40% between the same period. And petrol is now retailing at 184 shillings per liter, up from 127. And transport is a major component of construction sector. So when the price of fuel goes up, it directly impacts the cost of materials, because the cost of materials, the component of transport is usually way bigger than we imagine. And the other one is the exchange rate with the US dollar, which is affected because a lot of the money that is being used in construction in this country is coming from outside, whether it is from a foreign country, a foreign state, or individuals, or at the same time Kenyans living abroad. A lot of money in construction is generated outside. So every change in the dollar affects the cost of construction. We also looked at these are just random ratios that we developed for the cost of per square meter for a single bungalow, which has increased by 12% to 54,000. That is for a standard bungalow. And then a standard low-rise apartment is now at 68,800 per square meter. It's important to note that Nairobi is where everything is happening, and it's quite a big difference if you compare. It's more than half compared to the rest of the country put together. Next slide. We also are very keen on looking at how we capacitate the sector with the professionals. The education, the development of the budding designers, and also the workforce is very key to us. But the most outstanding statistic is out of the 1,700 young members, graduates we talk to, up to 90% of them say they don't have any meaningful employment. So this is the kind of confusion we get, because out here there's construction, there's a boom, as we all say, but there's a correlation, there's something that's not adding up between what is on the ground, what is happening out here, and who are supposed to do it. And we believe this is because a lot of developers have found a way of not dealing with consultants, or at least there are some few of our members, a few, who are enabling them to do the business. And it is something that as an association we are pushing for, that we cannot build a city without professionals. That doesn't even work. What we are building towards is possibly dystopian space that we don't want to be in the future. Next slide. The other statistics that we collected was on the issues of infrastructure, and in this case we picked a few about the roads, and there's quite a change, because we looked at what the Kenya Highway Authority are doing and the Kenya Urban Roads Authority are doing. And as you can see from those graphs, there's a major difference in terms of the amount of roads that were done. That is the Class A and the Class B. 2024, there was quite a number of work done around that. And 2025, there's a sudden drop, almost to, by all means, not zero, but way below the fifth marker. So an important stat to pick out there is also that the Kenya Roads Board, which appropriates funds for construction, allocated over 3 billion to counties to rehabilitate roads networks. And maybe some as a follow-up, it would be an interesting thing to see whether where this money went to. Next slide, please. Please note that a lot of data, what we are presenting is what we received. If you see a gap or if you feel like there's something missing, please write to the association, especially through the Department of RNA, and we can be able to chase more data. But we are presenting what we were able to receive as of this day. Good news though, the regulatory front, this year saw 2 new documents that were very critical in the shaping the industry. That is the physical land use planning handbook and the National Building Code 2024, which essentially are documents that have been pending for a while to be renewed. And we think that the fact that they are now being released and are out here in the market, and in fact we believe our members, because majority of our members are saying they are already using these documents, we will be able to start seeing some improvements in how things are done, especially in regards to do with issues of legal foundation, whether these documents are actually anchored in law, whether they are enforceable. Because it's one thing to have a guideline, and it's quite another when it's mandated to use. Of course, the issue of environmental protection are very critical. They have been spoken to, and the issues of technology or allowing for alternative technology materials and all that, very important. And of course, modern standards as well, because these are some of the things that define how we build. Next, please. And the other important part of the report is on the climate action. As AK, of course, we know we are very at the fore of issues to do with the climate action, and we captured a couple of data. In fact, we are engaged with the Green Building Performance Network on developing a national decarbonization roadmap for Kenya. Why is this important? It is important because we need to track what is going on. If we don't track and we're able to push, I think we can miss out on something. So it's very important for us to say that where are we? What are we doing? And is it possible that we are actually on track? Remember, Kenya has some targets. For example, reduce carbon emissions by up to 32% in just over 5 years. Are we on track? And this is where the roadmap comes in. Remember that if we don't do anything, we can be able to monitor and say what will happen. And we can be able to push the players and the various sectors which have already been very clearly highlighted by what AAK and the GBPN. And this whole process is actually being anchored under the Ministry of Public Works. So it is government supported. The next slide is the last one, but I wanted to mention that the main challenge we are facing right now is the belief that the built environment can happen without professionals. Well, it is happening. The question is what is happening or how it's happening. And at AAK, we believe that the trend at which we are going towards, where a lot of buildings are irregular, a lot of construction is being done outside the advice of the professionals. It's the same as exactly if you thought about the medical industry, for example, where doctors are not the one giving they're not the ones looking at the doctor, at the patients. But the unfortunate thing with the population explosion, we are seeing a situation whereby developers have to build, and they have to build fast. And we want to tie these issues of, one, lack of professionalism to the issues of the snag at the development control level in terms of how the counties are approving and how they are monitoring the process of construction. And it is very possible because developers will only do what they can. And a lot of times when you have a snag where development control is a bottleneck, then it means people will find a way around it. If it's going to take me longer to get to approval, then I'll go and build myself. And I can tell you the statistics that we have doesn't mean that people are not submitting for approval. Nairobi's decline in revenue does not mean that less people are building. No, it just means people are finding other ways to go ahead and build. You know, Nairobi, for example, has started regularization of unapproved buildings. What does that mean? It means that everyone who's building right now, all they need to do is go to City Hall and say, I've built and I need to be given a permit, but the building is up and running. And that is the unfortunate situation. So, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you. And I hope my chapter chairs who are all here will also share their bits about what they think about the report. And we'll see how we can push it forward. We will also be able to give to the media. We will prepare a document that we'll share with the media for publication. Thank you. Back to you, MC. Michelle.